ball of the foot?
That's the cold open. Thanks. I don't even have to say anything. Oh, Yale. That's right. You and your Yale sweater. I forgot about that.
My step grandparents teach there. Leave me alone. It's a comfortable sweatshirt.
Is there a Rain alum that's been to Yale? I don't think so. I'm gonna Google this while I do our introduction. Welcome back
Well, where
to
did
Right is.
Afioma Onamanu play? I want to say she,
Ooh,
for some reason, I feel like she went to an Ivy League, but maybe I'm totally mistaken.
Ife. Mm. Oh no, Cal.
I was way off then.
Cal, the Yale of the Pac. Well,
I
nope,
mean, because
not
I
Pac-12
mean,
anymore.
we've got Princeton through Madison Curry, but I actually don't know if there are any Yale players in the NWSL. There's got to be one at one point. Anyway, we should probably get back on actual track.
When will the Rain drop their trans right shirt? Look at Doppler. Look at him stunt.
Oh, I mean, they must like I assume they would release a Pride collection around their Pride game, even though it's in August.
Yeah, but it's June.
I know, but they have no home games in June, and the Rain are gay all year round.
This is true. It is very true. All right, we'll get into it. Welcome back to Right is Rain. Bella has returned from mystical places unknown.
Yes.
And Yale? No. Um, we had a we have a win to talk about. You and I've been doing the solo matches, which I mean is nice, but it's not the same. You know, it's never the same without Bella because Bella will say all these words, and I'm just like, yes, very good.
I do say a lot of
Um,
words. That's my
oh
specialty.
God, that's right. Okay, sorry, I completely wiped the Chicago match from my brain. So fascinating to close out, the month of June with the two teams at the bottom of the NWSL table, and get two differing results. Come out, give up two goals almost immediately into the match, and have to cause dramatics to get back into it at the very end with a Jordan Bug goal, nonetheless. Um, that well, watching the highlights back, like it's so funny because she had a somewhat similar chance earlier in the match. Very weird. And then this match in Utah it's really weird to say America first. Like,
You don't need to talk about the stadium. We just say the
no.
stadium in Utah.
Yes. Out with God bless Rio. Good luck, Rio. Um, oh yeah, you get this nice 4-1 victory where you score what, the 6th minute? Thanks to G. So, very nice difference. 4-1 victory for the Reign. Back, what was this, on the 21st? Yes, 21st in Utah. Um, G and Maddie Darlene score in the first half, and then Emery Adamas with a brace in the second half. So that's really cool to see. Um, Also interesting. I think you and I have talked about this. Is Lynn Biondolo helping set up goals? Which maybe
I have so much I can say.
not expected, so to say, by some, but it's just so nice to have a Lynn like so remarkable. Um, and Maddie Darlene, I mean, I think maybe that got wiped away in my excitement to see that G scored again and that Emery Adamas got a brace, but we're getting more Maddie Darlene continued success. Oh yeah, someone who I thought we should look out for in this one, which is obvious, but Ali Sentnor, what got the lone Utah goal? So, um, yeah, I mean this was a match that the Reign were, you know, in control of for a while. Right? I don't think that was in doubt. Um, oh wait, no. Bianca St. George had the rebound. Yes, sorry.
Yes.
Sentnor had the initial shot from distance that Dickey had to make the save on. Yes. Sorry. Um,
I can just start
yes.
giving my general thoughts if you'd like.
Yes, I was gonna let you unload here. Um, no, it's just nice, right? To go into this break with a 4-1 win. You are now sixth in the you're behind Portland. So yeah, Bella, your thoughts on this match to welcome you back to the show.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just scoring multiple goals uh in three games in a row. I think it was the last time I had been on here to record that I was basically concerned that they could not find more than one goal when they really needed to. I think San Diego was a huge game for them in terms of one banger from Sally Menti, but also, a team that had been in really good form and a team that, Laura Harvey said was sort of one of the best football playing clubs at that point. And, to be able to come back and get that win, I think is really important. And the same thing then happened the next week in Chicago. Obviously, you didn't get the win that time around, but I think it's really encouraging to see them go down 2-0 and come back to tie it, especially after the Washington game where they simply could not find that second goal to bring themselves level with the Spirit. And, it could have been really easy against Chicago to really just kind of give up and be defeated. I mean, those were two goals that they should not have given up, were pretty similar to each other, and were overall very disappointing. So I think to see them fight back and manage to actually score goals in those games and tie that one up and get any points out of it at all was significant. And then even though Utah is, far from the strongest team in the NWSL, they're by no means a bad team. And, this is the first time since we were talking about this since May 2023 when, Megan Rapinoe and Quinn and Emily Sonnet and everyone were still on the Reign. It's the first time since then that they've scored 4 goals in a game. And, they got them from a lot of places and not necessarily Lynn Biondolo. As much as we want Lynn Biondolo to score, I also think it's really important that the sole goal scoring mantle is not placed on her. Because the more you get all of your goals from one player, the more teams can just sort of shut down that one player and then shut down your team as a whole. And I think what's really impressive is how Lynn Biondolo has used that attention that she draws to create goal scoring opportunities for other people. I mean, she has had countless hockey assists in the past couple games. And even if she hasn't physically touched the ball, she's drawn 3 defenders her way or done something that has made it so that her teammate is open, like on the Maddie Darlene goal, right? That ball, there were 3 players around Lynn Biondolo focused on not letting her get the ball, which allows it to drop right to G, who sends it in for Maddie Darlene. Her hold up play to get it to G and then to Emery for the third goal. On the first goal, it was her cross in that was sort of poorly headed down that G scored off of. And so she is just so important to this team. It does not matter if she is technically getting an assist or a goal. If this team is scoring goals, she is going to be involved in it somehow. And it just speaks to what a brilliant player she is. I mean, we knew that, obviously. But I think she's also put a lot of faith in the younger players around her. And Emery and Maddie talked about that after the last game, that, they really value that she trusts them to, take those opportunities and, use the wide open space that she's creating by the attention she draws. So I think that's just a really wonderful thing to see. I think that gelling is what we had kind of been hoping and waiting to see. It'll be interesting to see when they come back from such a long break, where it seems like many of them will be on international duty. Obviously, European players at the Euros, but also a lot of U.S. women's national team players, depending on who ends up getting called in for things. So I'll be interested to see how that gel holds up after a long break. But I think that you just simply can't overstate the importance of Lynn Biondolo. And I think it's, because she hasn't been on the score sheet, she's only had 2 goals for this club. I feel like it's just way too easy to overlook what she does. And I really want to avoid doing that. Um, Another big thing for me for this game, so wonderful to see G back. I think she is a brilliant player, and her touch and finish on that goal, absolute beauty. I mean, she makes it look so simple, and nothing about that is simple. Um, and I think Laura has talked about getting this team healthy and being able to play their best starting 11, because honestly this year they have not necessarily been able to consistently play their best starting 11 because of the injuries they've had, specifically to Jess Fishlock, Norelia Mondesir. Lynn was injured at various times or earlier in the season. And I think G can just be such an impressive creator, even when she's not scoring those kinds of goals. I mean, we love a G banger here, of course. And like when she scored those, her first couple games in Seattle, I was like, yes, absolutely, this is the Ji So-yeon we know from Chelsea. But she just is also such a creative force in the attack, and I think we saw a lot of that against Utah. And I hope she stays healthy and can continue to um, really provide that spark. The other thing in relation to that is Laura talked after the game about how she thinks one of the best things that this midfield has right now is competition. That Sam Meza, Anghara James Turner, Jess Fishlock, Sally Menti, Olivia Vanderyacht, Ji So-yeon, Norelia Mondesir, so many players are playing at incredibly high levels or have played at incredibly high levels. And they are all pushing each other to be better every day because they all want those starting spots and they all want that playing time. And I think you're seeing it in how well the midfield is playing and how brilliant some of those players have been this season when they've, stepped in for injured players like Jess Fishlock, and they've, made a big difference. Sally Menti got her first start just because, well, not just because, but largely because Anghara James Turner and Jess Fishlock had just flown from Wales, and Laura Harvey had decided they were not going to play their usual starters who had, traveled so far and only just reunited with the team. And in that, she scored her first professional goal and, earned herself a brand new long-term contract and everything. So it's just amazing to see how many different players have stepped up for the team this year, and how deep the talent that is available really is. And this game was just another example of it. And it's just really great to see them scoring goals. Hopefully they can do some of it at home in the future. I think fans would appreciate that. But overall, I think it's just great to see that the early goal scoring slump that was very concerning has at least shifted a little bit.
I think that is a very fair way to put it. And we will look at Sally's contract here because I know that was something that um
We both were expecting and thinking would
yeah.
happen.
And it's just especially funny to have her on the show, which I think that's like I know you and I have talked about it, you know, through text, since we haven't had you, but having Claudia, having Sally, like I'm just hoping we can do like that. Obviously, I feel like I want to kind of leave the leave the players alone during this month because it's a break. But very much using that because I hate to use certain ones just because they're not the greatest examples and sometimes not the greatest people, but like you see the Pat McAfee show and they've got all these different athletes on their show, like this daily and or weekly show, and I'm like, I want it to be like that, but for these teams, right? I don't know if we'll be able to get the Storm to do that. I don't. That'd be wonderful. But like, having these folks on here, I don't know who we'd do next. We'd have to work on that. But oh, one idea I had since we're talking about Sally Menti is So Bella was bringing up, yeah, the last time that the Reign scored 4 goals, was that what May 27th, 2023 home match against Angel City. Veronica Latsko had the brace in that one, and so anytime it's sad to think about Veronica Latsko's the injury that she suffered, but um, anytime the younger Reign players do anything, just seeing Veronica say "baby's on tour," like I love seeing that. So like maybe we'll like see if we can get Veronica on to talk about how she's doing, in her recovery and how babies on Reign babies on tour is a thing. Uh, you know, so yeah, no,
Lou
it's been fun
Barnes had a
to do that.
really nice thing to say about that too after the San
Uh,
Diego game. When I sort of
oh, in the presser.
mentioned, yeah, when I mentioned to her that often when the starting 11 is like her and a bunch of children, it's Lou Barnes and the kids or Lou Barnes and the children. Um, and she just seems so excited about the future of this club, and she has so much faith and confidence and belief in these young players and their ability to carry this team forward to reach its goals both this season and in the future. And I think it says a lot about the club in terms of how much they have invested in young talent recently. Laura spoke about not knowing if it was purposeful, but saying that the CBA sort of lends itself towards developing younger players. And I think the Reign are one of the teams that have benefited a lot from that, despite being one of the later teams to make their first U18 signings. Like Maddie Darlene, Jordan Bug, Emery Adamas, like those have been majorly impactful players. And even, the players that they've signed just sort of straight out of college. I mean, I guess Maddie Darlene is one out of college, not a U18. That's my mistake. But it's
The
still sort
younger
of,
range.
yeah, it's still, Laura has always been one who I think is committed to helping young players develop. I think we've seen that with Shea Holmes. I think we've seen that with Olivia Vanderyacht. I think we saw that with a lot of players over the years. Um, and I honestly think that, developing young players really tends, like, works with Laura's talents. Laura has a lot of talents, to be clear, but I do think she's really brilliant at developing young players. And I think they're, you know, seeing the dividends of that this year. Sam Meza, another one. Like, there's just, as much as the Reign is and always will be to some extent Lou Barnes, Megan Rapinoe, and Jess Fishlock, they they have fully embraced and supported the influx of youth and made it so that even when they are eventually gone, the team will continue to succeed with the same kind of talent and human beings as a part of the team, which was sort of a side note, but
Yeah, no, I mean, it's if it like I understand wanting to kind of look at it long term after a win like this, right? Because you see those players showcase, you know, that they will have an impact in that one. Shoot, what was it? I was looking at this the other day, but well, we had this talk on our Sounder show about, how the defense, like with Yamar out, and I'm sure, well, Bella did the Club World Cup for the AP. Um, and
I
it's
don't know
like
why. Like, why am I such a 2007
they
white girl?
the Sounders are down, well, even this match, they're down this upcoming match Saturday. Oh no, okay, that must have been the Chicago match that Lou Barnes came off pretty early, if I remember correctly, for Shea Holmes.
I think
Um,
so, yeah.
yeah, 21st minute. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But like anyway, the point was like with the Sounders without Yamar, they lose so much communication on their back line. Like I'm sure Bella saw it, but with John Bell, like there were mistakes there. John Bell's fine, but he's like your third or fourth center back. That's not ideal. And just he's the verbal leader there. Like, you know, with Lou Barnes, respectfully, who else is the verbal leader on the Rain back line?
I mean, I do think that Claudia Dickey and Phoebe McClernon,
Phoebe's a good shout.
led by Lou Barnes, have increased their communication.
Sure. but we still go
I
back to Lou Barnes, right?
right, and this goes back to my point from a previous podcast where even when she's not on the field, she is helping these players develop. She is
Yep.
helping them develop
Yep.
the attitudes and the skills that you need to lead a good team and to be a good back line beyond just the technical skills.
Mhm.
I mean, communication, I think, has always been one of her strong suits. She's an incredibly well spoken and wonderful person,
Oh
obviously.
yeah. Oh yeah.
But she also knows her shit. And she is so committed to helping these younger players. And, various players have talked about like looking to Lou for advice, looking to Lou for guidance and what do I do on the field. I don't remember who it was in a previous year. Someone, I think it might have been Veronica Latsko when she was playing an outside back and was just like, I
Mm.
just was like, Lou, tell me what to do, like just yell at me. Or maybe it was a different young player. I can't remember because I do think it was years ago at this point. um, but she is such a brilliant veteran presence, and I think it's a really similar impact to Lynn Biondolo, opposite sides of the field, but so similar in that even when they're not on the pitch, the players you have around them are going to learn something from them because they are natural leaders. They are talented, experienced individuals who are also wonderful human beings who really want to help other people develop. I mean, Lynn had the nicest things to say about Maddie Darlene early in the season about how she
Yep.
wants to, help her be better than she is and, avoid mistakes that she's made and help her play as long as she wants to, and all these wonderful things. Like, that's the kind of people that you need leading a young team.
Yep.
I think there have been concerns about the Reign's age, and certainly that can be a concern. At the same time, I think this season they've managed to strike a really great balance between
Yes. Yeah.
incredibly talented veterans who are still incredibly capable of playing very impactful minutes, but also can teach all of these younger players who are coming into their prime or not even close to their prime yet. And they have people to learn from.
Hmm.
They've all of the young players we've talked to, especially the forwards, have raved about learning from Lynn. And I just don't think I don't think this young team has as much success as it has had this season without the leadership and impact of players like Lynn and Lou and Jess and even G. Like there's just a lot of really talented, experienced players, and that experience matters.
Yep.
Because you getting that experience yourself is one thing, and it's very valuable. But also sometimes maybe you don't have to experience something before you like learn the lesson from it because someone else already experienced it and they can teach you the lesson. And I think that just accelerates the development. And I think we've seen that. I think we've seen the young players this season just get better really quickly. Like they have been challenged to be better and they have done it. Emery Adames was told, hey, you're not playing defense well enough. And that's how you get
Yep.
on the pitch.
Yep.
And now she plays defense like her life depends on it. And she, gets to play full games and she
Yep.
scores a bunch of goals. I think she has what, 4 on the season now? Like, and that's an
Oh
18 year
wow.
old who,
Yeah.
signed at the beginning of last season with a lot of hype and, had some good moments, but still struggled. So I just think that those players, as much as they, will have an impact on stat sheets and that sort of thing, they also will have sort of a harder to see impact on the players around them in terms of their development.
For sure. No, I think what sticks with me is the balance you mentioned, right? Because we can go to like maybe it's harsh to say because I don't see it as much. It's harder to see with like the goalie position, but like every like outfield position for the Reign, you've got young contributors. Like obviously, you think about the defense, you think about Jordan Bug, but as you
Right.
mentioned, Shea Holmes is someone who's developed a little bit more than what I saw in college. I didn't expect them to take Shea Holmes. Don't get me wrong, I loved it, but and then I forget she's not super young, but Maddie Curry is still relatively young
Oh yeah, she's only in her second
offensively,
season. She's like
right?
23, 24.
Yep. So, that see Emily Mason's played some decent minutes here and
Right?
there,
Again,
largely
like
as a sub.
23 years old out of college.
Yep. So like they've got that. Um William Brown's not super young. I mean, we still have to get her back, right? Oh, she's 26. Okay. Yeah, kind of. But like,
She's definitely still on the younger side, but
yes.
I think before her injury, it was another player who benefited a lot from someone like Lou.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
she also played alongside Emily Sonnet, like
Yes. Which
some
is remarkable.
like just some really really great players. You know, she also, you know, like Sam Meza had spent some time on loan. So I think the other thing is they're finding, you know, a balance for particular players about learning in the Reigns environment around those, you know, veteran players, and then also getting loans and finding minutes for players when they
Which we'll
think
have
that
to mention here shortly.
yes. And getting minutes for those players when it seems like that actual experience is what is needed, because different players need different things, right? Some
Yeah.
players maybe need to be told things. Some players just need to be, you know, training with incredibly talented players. And sometimes, you know, you just need some minutes to get your feet back under you. So I think recently in particular, they've done a really good job of finding those spaces for people, right? Like, I mean, Sally Menti, we talked about originally the plan was sign her short term and then send her out on loan over the summer so she could get some minutes.
Yeah.
Then she comes
Changed
in
the
and they
plan.
realize how well she's playing, and they were like, oh no, we need to keep her long term, and also she's going to get minutes here. So we don't need to loan her out. I mean, we can't confirm that she won't be loaned, but it does not seem likely.
No.
So,
Here we go.
you know, they're very amenable to the plans changing. And, you know, Laura even encouraged Sally to change the plan. She
Changed the
said,
plan.
you know, this is the plan, but change it. That's up to you. Like, you can play well enough and you can prove yourself to the point that we have to reevaluate. And now she is signed through 2027 with an option for 2028. Incredibly well deserved and wonderful for her, especially as a Seattle native. We love that. Um, my mom was like, "You probably played against her in high school," and I'm like, "I was on JV. I definitely didn't play against her in high school." Um, but I think, you know, it'll be interesting to see how they figure out their roster situation this summer. But so far, they've done a really good job of finding those moves for players and helping them develop in whatever environment it is that each individual needs.
Yeah, no, and I was just gonna go down. I mean, someone who we were gonna talk about more, it felt like earlier into the season was Maddie Mercado, given how they'd used her
Mm-hmm.
in the midfield position, which is her listed position here on the Raid Media site.
Mm-hmm.
But she's played forward as well.
Yeah,
As
she's
a
played all
forward.
over.
She's played all like they talked. Ainsley McCammon is still very young. God, 2000. Looking at the date of birth and saying 2007 is terrible.
It
Sorry, Ainsley.
really
But
is.
even her, like we haven't like it feels tough because of you talked about the competition in the midfield. I haven't been able to see her that much.
Mm-hmm.
Um, would I know we'll get to it. Yeah, Sally you talked about Sam.
I
And then
almost
obviously
feel
the
like
forward group.
I almost feel like there are very few players that we've seen super consistently.
This is true.
Like,
This is true.
I would say Jordan Bug is one,
Yep.
Claudia Dickey is the other, Maddie Darlene would be the other because she's played so many minutes. But every other, oh, Phoebe McClernand, actually.
Yeah, I was
And
like Phoebe's in
then,
there, right?
you know, even, you know, Madison Curry had an injury. Shay Holmes has been in and out. Emily Mason has been in and out. Even Angharad James Turner, like, even though she's having such a brilliant season, you know, Sam Meza took a lot of Jess's minutes, but then, you know, seemed like maybe Jess took some of those minutes back. G has been in and out. Coco has been in and out. You know, Lynn had that injury early on. Jordan has been in and out. Obviously, she's, you know, dealing with some personal stuff, and we wish her the best. And
Yeah,
it
Jesus.
was good to see her back on the pitch, but also hope she takes all the time she needs in the world. But there's been I don't which season was it that it was like they used a different starting 11 every single game, because
Oh,
I feel like that's kind of where we're at. where it's like
What
they're
is that?
playing really well, but there's not necessarily consistency in many places. I think
Yeah,
it's been a
which
little bit more as players have been healthy, but with international duty and injuries, like various players have been on minutes restrictions or not starting because of travel or whatever. Like there's just been a lot of different players making a difference.
well, and I thought maybe I'm remembering this wrong, but I know that I thought that earlier in the season as well, Laura had mentioned how, maybe changing up the looks could be good to make their attack more unpredictable,
Hmm.
right? So that obviously I don't think they plan to have it this the way that it's gone, but
Yeah. And
that could add to it.
the defense has been a little bit more stable.
Yeah.
She's sort of settled into this three back, five back situation,
She loves a five
um,
back.
which is honestly shocking.
Isn't it
Um,
interesting? Like I know because we first saw it with the clubs that they were playing against in like Orlando and Kansas
yeah,
City, it makes sense. But
right.
it seems like this is a default thing to an
Yeah,
extent now.
yes, and I almost feel like it's partially so that you can have McClernand, Bug, and Barnes all on the field at once. But Barnes didn't start the last game, and she still kind of went with the same thing. So I'm, I mean, I think it'll to an extent make more sense when Sofia Huerta's back, because
Yeah.
I do think that wingback position will be great for her, because that's kind of always how they wanted to use her anyway. But they were always playing in a four back, so they
Yeah.
always just kind of had to rely on someone tracking back or some extra
Yep.
movement. So, I think that's been an interesting thing. But there has been some more stability back there, you know, when there haven't been injuries. Lou has been sort of off and on. Maddie Curry had an injury at one point.
Yep.
Um, but generally, at the very least, that duo of Jordan Bug and Phoebe McClernand, along with, the goalkeeper Claudia Dickey, has been pretty solid. And that is sort of the one spot where you want the most continuity. If you're going to have continuity anywhere on the field,
Yeah.
it's great for it to be your center backs and your
Please.
goalkeeper. Um, and that is where they've had the most continuity. It's hard to say if all of the changing in the front lines and the middle has helped or hurt right now. Um, I don't think it's hurt, given that they've had good results lately. But I will be interested to see how much that changes or stays the same when everybody is healthy. When, if Jess is completely healthy coming back from the Euros, if G is completely healthy, Coco, um, if Anna Maria comes back healthy and is then a starter or something. Like I truly don't know what's going to happen there. Because I do think some of the experimentation has been because of injury. Some of it has been because they weren't scoring goals. And if it's not working, it's not working. You got to try something else. Um, so I'm not sure what they'll. I'm curious to see if they find more consistency towards the end of the season, because you always want depth, but at the same time there is some benefit to familiarity. Emery and Maddie talked about it after the last game, that you're seeing them gel, and how much is that affected by them having you know played the most recent games together, more than they had previous ones. With Jordan out, so it'll just be an interesting thing to keep an eye on.
That's how I know we're friends because I love to do the keep an eye on or that'll be interesting. I love doing that. Um,
Because it's a thought, but I don't know how it's going to work out. I don't
hey,
know.
that is Laura's problem.
Yeah, I'm not inside Laura's head.
That is Laura and Scott Parkinson and their problem to deal with. Um,
And again,
maybe
it's a
maybe
problem you want to have, right? You
yeah.
want that depth, but it'll be interesting.
Here's a stupid question for you.
Oh,
Uh, Um, when is the summer transfer window? Has that passed already?
No, it has not passed already. I
Oh,
believe
I
it
don't.
only
That's why I
just
said stupid question.
I believe it only just recently opened.
Oh,
Hence why we are seeing a lot of um, re-signings. So like so Maria Sanchez was transferred to Tigres. A
oof.
bunch of players have um, recently been signed. I can probably maybe find it somewhere.
Taylor Hinds to women's Arsenal. That's all I care about.
What now?
Taylor Hinds, Liverpool vice captain.
Heinz?
Hines, I
No,
don't know.
Heinz. I believe it's Heinz, but I can't confirm that when I've watched it, they've pronounced it correctly.
Hines. Well, free transfer to add a 26-year-old to the European champions is very nice. Um, we'll ask Laura. Be like, Laura, thoughts on
Um,
women's Arsenal?
so the 2026 free agency period and secondary transfer window opens July 1st and closes August 25th.
Oh, okay. Well, it's funny. Funny you just talked about the way the roster is and all that. I don't know. Are they active in the window? Like, because well, wait. Should I hold that to when we get to Sally's contract? Because obviously you'll have to loan players out and
I
make
mean, I've
decisions.
already talked about Sally's contract like three
Yeah, but
times.
we haven't gotten to that segment yet.
I didn't realize it
Oh,
was a separate segment.
this is fair. Um, I don't know because what would they like? I
They
feel like they're
will
pretty comfortable in where they are, where they're at.
they will have to make moves. Like 100%, they will have to. They are over the roster limit and have players returning from loan, and eventually Ryan Brown should return from season-ending injury, I assume as well.
Well, in that
Uh,
regard, yes, like your own housekeeping, but do you think they do anything outside of that?
I'd be a little surprised. I mean, Leslie always talks about if there's a chance to make the team better, they're going to do that. So if they have a chance to make, you know, a a big signing, I don't see why they wouldn't. Um, if you have the ability to make another, Linby and Dolo side signing, you make that signing. Um, but I do think that they have a really there's no position they're particularly lacking in, and there's and their goal scorers are finding their form. In the past, I would have said acquire some goal scorers, and this is the first time I think I would say no, you're actually okay. You know, Lynn is a huge part of that, but Maddie and Emery finding their form is big. G is good for a couple of goals. Jordan Bug now apparently is good for a couple of goals. Hopefully we'll see Haidema back and in form. I still expect to see a couple more goals from her this summer. Like they've got that Coco too. I think eventually we'll get a goal from Coco. Um, so they've got options up top, and the players that they have returning are defenders. So if they're going to acquire anyone, probably an attacker. However, I just don't. I mean, neither of us ever would have expected that they traded Bethany Balcer. So who the fuck knows? But
Yeah.
like there's there's nothing that feels so necessary that you make that kind of trade again, right? Like you made the Jalen Howell trade because you lost Emily Sonnet and you were kind of struggling in the midfield. And so you got Jalen Howell out of that one. And that one, sort of ended up working out because then we got Lindy and Dolo. So I'm like less mad about it now than I was, but still love for Bethany. And glad to see
Yeah.
that she's back with racing. But there's just
There's no clear, obvious move for them to make.
there's no clear obvious move. I think we will see either some players move to other teams entirely or sent on loan. Um, you know, Maybe Ryan Brown will go on loan again, just to get minutes now that she's fit.
Yeah, that
Because I
makes
think
sense.
he'll have a hard time breaking back into the squad just coming off of injury. I still will kind of be surprised if we see Lily Woodham return.
Yeah,
I would expect either like the move to Crystal Palace to be made permanent or another loan to be made for the rest of the season. Sofia Huerta, we know, is returning. That's an expected one. Um, you know, Julia Lester is a player you could try and find a loan for, or a trade for some small amount of money or something, because she has played the least of anybody. I don't believe she's played any minutes this season.
not that I remember.
Um, so she'd be the first, a wonderful person, but she has played so little that she'd be the first player I expect to be moved to make space on the roster. Potentially a loan for Olivia Vanderyacht because she has not played a ton of minutes this season either, in such a crowded midfield. And I know they have a lot of belief in her and love her and her, sort of long term potential. So I can't imagine they'd be, you know, wanting to let her go entirely. So a loan would kind of provide her the opportunity um, to get some minutes because obviously she missed like the entire second half of last season with her sort of unspecified illness and is feeling healthy this year and good but just hasn't been able to break into that midfield. Ainsley McCammon is another one that Laura had potentially talked about sending on loan at some point. I don't
Yeah.
know if there are restrictions on that because of her age, because I believe she's
Oh.
still 17. Um, so I think there's a lot of options, and it's just sort
Oh
of
yeah.
finding clubs that are a good fit for those players. Um, because you don't obviously you don't want to send them somewhere where they're going to have a horrible experience. You want the loan to be beneficial and not just a way to make roster space, right? Ideally, the loan benefits both parties. That is the idea. Otherwise, why send them on loan when you can just find a different team for them to go to entirely? So, based on the fact that they've used loans pretty extensively in the past, Mackenzie Weiner went on loan, even though she didn't return. Sam Meza went on loan and then returned and got a lot of minutes. Um, Ryan Brown had been on loan. Alyssa Mollinson had been on loan. Who else had been on loan? Like I know there are a lot of players. Um, so because they've had success with that, and because they are, Laura is someone who is very, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Very invested in the long term development of her players. And so I see her wanting to help these players further their careers and get the opportunities that they need, but not necessarily wanting to let them go out of the Reign system entirely because she wants to develop those players so that they can eventually play for her. Um, so I don't know if we'll see, minor trades or just loans or what. Only Lizzie Gallimore knows that, but they will have to do some finagling
Leslie.
to.
Leslie
They
on the
will
show.
definitely have to do some finagling to make space at the very least for now Menti's long-term contract and the return of Sofia Huerta.
Yeah, I
Those
guess
are
we can kind of go with that. Now I want to go straight into that Sally Menti contract and like exercise how you would handle this going forward. So, yes, as Bella has talked about and has mentioned, Sally Menti signed through 2027. There's an option for 2028, mutual option for 2028. I feel like that's important to mention.
all
Um,
options are mutual now.
oh, good. Okay, good to know. So many things I have to keep contact wise. There's so much happening. I almost
Yeah,
said like, oh
it
yeah,
was never
trade
good.
Julia
We were
Lester for draft picks. Can't do that.
no.
Um, yeah, this just made sense with the way that she's played, with the way that the club has talked about her. Um, And just with Sally knowing the club pretty decently well, like it just made a ton of sense. Um, it's she's got a fun history to look at. I mean, obvious the Roosevelt part's not so just kidding. Metro League. Metro League talk is always fun. Going to Santa Clara though, the powerhouse that that program has been, right?
Mhm.
Collegiately, multiple all West Coast Conference honors, championship in 2020, some decent um international experience. She's
Mhm.
in the U23 US national team for the upcoming international window, so that's cool.
Yep.
Is that the one are both they and the other camps
The
training?
first couple
No.
days, the U23s and the senior
U23s.
national team are sort of training together or side by side so that
Yep.
Emma Hayes can watch the U23s, but it's the full camp is not together.
Okay. So yeah, there's that. But then Sally's had previous time at U16, U17, U18, U20, finalist for the 2022 US Young Female Player of the Year award. So that's pretty cool. But so yeah, we've kind of did you have something or are you looking at something?
Yes, it was Lou had um a great quote about Sally having a history with the team.
Oh,
And she said, we knew we had something special for a really long time, and we always knew we needed to keep her around. So when she's healthy and fit, she's in here, and you guys got to see just a tad of what she's going to bring. Sally's a Reign player through and through, whether she knows it or not. And that was after the San Diego win when she scored her first goal. Um, she also talked about the I mean, one thing that Laura could not stop saying was just that she's a ball player. Like she is, I think, the kind of technical football mind that Laura loves. And Lou talked about her calmness for being only 23 and how important that is, um, especially on relatively young teams where you can maybe have some more energetic players, maybe a little nervous. Um, she's just been really impressive. And I think it's really significant that after she got her first start, one, it's incredibly impressive to score your first pro goal in your first pro start after playing only 2 minutes in
yes.
your pro debut the week before. But then she started both games afterwards and played nearly 90 minutes in both of them. And that was when Anghra James Turner was back. Like there, she clearly immediately impressed Laura and the team and the staff. And it's clear now that she joined the team later because she had an injury coming out of college.
Yeah.
We don't know exactly what that injury is, I believe, but it sounds like now she is healthy and they've really essentially it sounds like they would have signed her straight out of college had she not been injured because they have had her train in the um, over the years with the club and they knew during college how good she was and now that she is healthy she has been able to show what they've been seeing for years and it's really impressive to earn those kinds of minutes immediately, especially when you have players like G and Jess and James Turner, like really Sam Meza, like players who have been playing at the top of their games this season or just are like international legends. Like that is not an easy midfield to break into, and she did it basically immediately.
Yeah.
I it's incredibly impressive.
Trying to see if oh yeah, okay. I do remember this because it was interesting hearing it talked about how she had that injury and that, couldn't sign because I remember her checking in for the UW friendly towards the end,
Mm-hmm.
like very last few minutes. And because of where they had put me to like I could hear Laura speaking to her and it was just
Mm-hmm.
all like hyping her up because of what she'd seen already at that point.
Yeah.
At that point, which was fascinating. Um and I went back and I just looked on the main CSS account and just looked up Sally Menti, and it's like seeing photos of her training last year that I took next to Sam
Yeah.
Meza is kind of funny. So yeah, no, it's funny. So no, the exercise now
Hmm.
is so you said where are we at with the roster? How many players are they over? Or well,
I don't know, honestly. I would have to actually carefully look at it.
because what's the roster limit?
I also don't remember that.
Oh, well, okay. So I guess easier.
I
You've
want to
got
say it's 26.
okay. I was gonna see if I could count these. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32. Oh, so if I count correctly, they're at 32. But that's also considering you've got Cassie Miller is hurt. Um, Cassie Miller's
Right.
hurt.
And
So I
that's
would, oh,
and Niku Purcell is her short-term replacement.
yep,
Veronica Latsko, SEI,
hurt.
and Ryan Brown, Sophia Huerta, Lily Woodham
Or to
are all right. So okay, so they were at 26. Wait, no. Who did who how did they have space assigned Menti to a short-term contract? I feel like we should have done this before we recorded. Let me
hold on.
cut
We're
this
gonna
part
we're
out.
gonna pause this and we're coming. So Bella and I are back from our investigation excursion because we were very confused.
I
Bella,
think we figured it out.
this is going to be just like our like storm roster debates because I've written it down.
Oh joy.
I've used the notebooks again. There
Uh-huh.
are 25 active players on the Reign roster, right? You've got 6 players who are either on loan or hurt. Obviously, Lily Woodham, Sophia Huerta are on loan. Sophia's Anna Sophia Sedeno. Are we including the? It's like it's in her Instagram name.
All of her like her personal things say Anna Sophia, but then the Reign releases said Sophia Sedeno,
Sophia.
so
Yeah,
not
that's
entirely
why.
certain.
So she was loaned back when the season started to Brooklyn FC in the USL Super League. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
As Bella and I have found, she either never played or yeah, she never. I was gonna say never appeared, but she was in several pictures like at USL Super League matches, just in street
Mm-hmm.
clothes. She never played for Brooklyn. So Bella has sent an email to Rain PR being like, "Hey, hello? Like, what did is she okay? We hypothesized that she suffered an injury.
Yeah,
It's
because she
just
was
weird.
perfectly healthy and played during the preseason. She played in the Coachella Valley
Yeah.
Invitational.
So it would just obviously be weird to send a player on loan and then not have them play at all
And she
on
is
loan.
signed through the end of 2025.
Yes, and the
So,
loan was through June, which
right.
ends
So,
in 4 days.
yeah, so they either need to find her a new loan, put her on SCI if there is an injury, or um or decide that they're making space on the roster for her. And given that she played no minutes and we don't really know what came of that, I would be shocked if she like made one of very few roster spots. Um, and in saying that there are 25 active players, we should confirm that you can have up to 26 active players on your roster. So as it stands, the Reign do have space to at least, for example, have Sofia Huerta return from loan, but they do not have space for um, anything beyond one more player being added to the active roster.
So we're gonna go through this exercise and we're gonna make Bella Leslie Galmore. You are
Okay.
Leslie Galmore for the day or for a few minutes. So
Uh-huh.
you've got decisions to make in the some yeah, because again, as we talked about, I don't imagine the rain outside of these housekeeping things will be active in the window. I remember being very confused and critical in the preseason, being like, hey, did you really do enough in the off season? And now just seeing how things have played out, I've calmed down. The bald man is fine. So you've got decisions to make what on the 6 players, right? Because like some of these are easy. I would
I think,
say
I mean, Sofia
what
Huerta automatically is returning, and I would say she takes that 26th active roster,
so yes,
open,
okay.
currently open active roster spot.
Wait.
So at the very least, you don't have to do anything to allow
You've
her to
got
return.
your decisions to make here. Where to as you said, she's just gonna return. I don't have to do anything there.
Hmm.
Return. Cassie Miller, I was gonna say was like easy one because when she comes back, like Purcell,
It'll it'll
unfortunately,
it'll sort of automatically end her contract, and Cassie Miller will take her spot. They could choose to have a fourth goalkeeper on the roster and make space for that, but I'd kind of be surprised considering how well Claudia's been playing and
yeah,
that they don't have any injury issues currently. Beyond obviously beyond Cassie Miller, like
yeah. And I feel like they were obviously happy enough to keep Alaska. That's the third. So like,
yeah, who got called up to the U23 U.S. Women's National Team. So maybe Emma
so
Hayes got sent training footage or just had a chat with Laura Harvey. Who knows?
Laura's in
But
her ear.
there's
Um,
clearly something they like about their goalkeepers. So I don't think they have to do anything to change that particular core.
like it would be nice if I don't know if you know anything about it, but like how the NWSL filed for like the second division. Uh,
Yeah,
like if you had that, that would be great, especially for some of these players. But we don't. That's not a thing. Is there? Do you know if there's an update on that? Because the last
I
thing I thought was that the NWSL filed for it and they did say, "Hey, we want this."
I don't know, but I do think that currently the USL Super League is functioning in that way.
Yeah,
um, because the level of competition is not as high as the NWSL, and it's a smaller league and it's newer.
yeah,
So I and they've sent several players on loan to USL Super League teams.
yep.
Obviously, Sedeno, which went to Brooklyn FC. Sam Meza was at Dallas Trinity. Mackenzie Weinert and another player at the same time had been sent to Spokane Zephyr.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't remember who at this particular moment in time.
Spokane was like Rain East Washington at
Yeah, they
one
had a
point.
lot of Rain players,
Because
former Rain players at one
I
point.
don't know how to say her name. Jody L. You remember her?
Oh, Jody Ukekel or something like
Yeah,
that. Yeah,
she was
yeah.
there. Natalie Vigiano was over there. If you remember
Hmm.
Natalie Vigiano,
Marley Canales
uh,
was there.
Marley Canales, like it was Rain East Washington.
Yeah.
And then they had the Rain East Washington Bowl when they played Fort Lauderdale because Cosette Morche was on Fort Lauderdale.
Hmm.
Okay, so yes, we Sophia Huerta return. Don't have to make a move there.
Hmm.
Miller takes Purcell out. Latsko's just out for the year, so no change, right?
Hmm.
Unfortunately. God bless Veronica. Sedeno. So what are you doing here? Because I feel like it depends. If she's hurt, you just put her on. I think there's two avenues we have to go, right? Is one option is just what place her on SEI,
Yeah, I mean SEI or
find a
45-day
new
disabled
loan.
list, something that basically removes her from the active roster. Because if she is injured, I don't know what team would want to take on an injured player on loan. Um, so like we don't know if she got injured at Brooklyn, if she was injured before she went to Brooklyn. Like really no clue what happened there. Um, but even if she is, healthy coming back in August, there's no proof of concept, for lack of a better term, to say this is why she should be on, the roster right now. Like Sam
Oh,
Meza
I
came
see.
back from Dallas
Yeah.
Trinity and was like a candidate for MVP halfway through the season.
Yes.
Like that was the kind of performance that was getting right. Like Sally Menti had also kind of had sort of similar to Sedeno, like joined like late and like not totally certain, and then now is on her long-term contract. But there's just no, without having played any minutes for Brooklyn, there is no tape to say she's gotten better and she should be on the team. So I don't see them making space for her specifically unless there are things we don't know about. Um, yeah, that one's really up in the air. If we get an answer from Rain PR, we will.
Uh, wow, they never. tweeted about her. That's fascinating.
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn never
Yeah,
said her name.
there's nothing that shows that she was on a roster. She has no posts about
Very
them on her
weird.
personal Instagram other than like being at some games, but like posing with other teams' players. Um, there is no the Reign never sent out anything saying she was injured. We just can't find any proof of her ever being in Brooklyn.
She doesn't exist.
Like even the games that she had that there are pictures of her at, I have no clue if those games were in Brooklyn or if they were away games or what.
Well,
It's
even then,
incredibly unclear.
she's like not wearing the logo either.
No, like it's super unclear. So hope we will try to get some clarification on that if it can be provided. Um,
So your
no,
options
no clue
are
what happened there.
basically, yeah, just SCI, and she's not hurt, which kind of makes it even weirder,
Yeah,
right? Is find another loan.
yeah,
So you've
or
got
yeah, you could always waive her if she agrees. Um, but
I'd be
my guess
fascinated
is
by that.
they would prioritize trying to help her find a loan or a new team if everyone felt like that was the best option.
Yeah, if they signed her to a deal in the first place, I don't imagine they'd be wanting to like kind of move on from her like that unless something happened. But okay, so you've got two more decisions to make here. Lily Woodham. Like we've talked about this on previous episodes and to each other, whether it's during matches or just generally. I just don't, as you've said, I don't think there's any place for her. Unfortunately, you've got
Yeah, I
better
don't see her
defenders,
breaking
you've
into the
got younger
squad.
defenders. It's just so
I mean, she's still quite young,
sure.
and maybe she has a really standout Euros. Um, I do think that they could find another loan for her rather than fully transferring her somewhere else if they I haven't seen enough Crystal Palace and her specifically. um I think she brings some good things to the attack, but she just struggled to defend at an NWSL level, and Crystal Palace kind of leaked goals like crazy to an extent. um and it's hard to know how much of that was related to her. In no way am I saying that Crystal Palace's defense sucked because of her. Not at all what I am saying, but uh, I I'm not entirely sure that she will have shown enough in her time over there to even I think sort of like if we're thinking about the defensive rotation, the sort of last defensive player who is like actually used sometimes. I mean, really used would be Emily Mason. Occasionally used would be Hannah Glass. Um, and I don't really see her playing
I
over
kind of
either of
forgot
them.
about Hannah Glass.
I think Mason is better, and I think Hannah Glass is more experienced.
Yep.
Um, and Hannah Glass seems pretty committed to Seattle right now. I believe her fiance is here. Um,
Mm.
but she quit the national team and has been putting her time into Seattle, so it's not a player that I necessarily see them moving on from. Um, so they could give Lily some more time to develop, um, closer to home, closer to Wales, um, and sort of see how that goes. Or if she wants a permanent transfer, they could do that. Um, it's hard to say because Ankara James Turner was someone who I thought really struggled when she first came to Seattle. And this year she has been brilliant, probably the best she's played in her career. Um, and I mean anywhere. Like she's played in the WSL and internationally, but I think this is the best she has played. And so there could be some sort of hope that something similar happened for Lily Woodham. Um, but I don't know. And it'll be up to Laura and Leslie and their staff to, look at her film from overseas and see if they think that she can break in. But just from a technical defensive ability standpoint, um, I and especially with Sofia Huerta certainly returning, um, the defense will be particularly deep, and also where Laura makes the least substitutions. So it just wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to make space for her. If you
Yeah.
wanted to, this is where I'm sort of like, if you want to bring a defender back, I'm thinking you either bring Ryan Brown or Lily Woodham back, not both, because you simply don't need that many defenders. And if you do want to bring one of them back rather than loan them, Julia Lester is the player that I would find a move for, um, simply because she has played not at all. Um, and I don't believe she's really been injured either. Um, so because of Ryan Brown's familiarity with the NWSL and with the Reign, I see her fitting in a little bit better. And she was playing at a really high level before her injury. So I think the question for Ryan Brown becomes, in terms of her um, ACL recovery, once she's healthy, is she going to be able to break into the squad to get minutes? And if not, does she need those minutes to get back to where she was? And if she does need minutes, you want to find her alone so that she can get those minutes. Um,
I
so
just think,
I think it's a lot of kind of either or. I think Ryan Brown is more likely to return than Lily Woodham,
yeah.
but probably there should be discussions within the staff and the medical team, um, about what opportunities there are for her returning from injury and what is best for her to get back to the form that she was in. Um, I think Shea Holmes is probably the person whose spot is most up for grabs in terms of starting or playing significant minutes. Um, she's had some really good games. First professional goal, we loved that. Um, but there have been some games where she's been kind of turned around a bit and little and struggled against certain attackers. I think she has improved massively over the years, and it's been wonderful to see. But I would say her spot is most up for grabs, and honestly, it's probably going to Sofia Huerta.
Yeah.
And I don't see anyone immediately displacing Madison Curry as long as she's healthy either. So just because of the position that those players are returning in, um, I do think you have a player who has played so little that it makes sense to send them on a loan if you want either Lily Woodham or Ryan Brown to return into the full squad rather than going on loans themselves. Um, but at some point, the team will have to figure out what they are doing with each of them, and it'll be a conversation about what is best for each individual player and what is best for the team as a whole.
So if I'm making you be Leslie, what are you doing with Willie? I think it's got to be the from the transfer on. Just if I'm Leslie, if
Mm-hmm.
I'm Leslie, uh, I like my defender options better here. Yeah, maybe if
The one thing I will say is some of your defenders, and by some I mean two, are older in
sure,
Hannah Glass and Lauren Barnes.
yeah.
And if you are expecting either of them to retire in the next year or two, then keeping Lily Woodham connected to the club and sending her on loan is not a
Ooh,
bad
okay,
option
this is true. Because if
because
you just
she,
send her on a loan through the end of the year or something, you still have the option to do either.
yes. So Yes. So that's why I think a loan is very possible for her, because she is still so young, and what they really were looking, when they signed her, they talked a lot about how young she was, right? And
Yes.
and the adjustment to the NWSL and everything. So there seemed to be some belief that she can be a part of the future of the team, even if it wasn't the present of the team. Um, and if they like how she is developing and think she can continue to get better, because I think she's like what, 24 or something,
Double check.
like I want to say early
Leave
20s.
24. Yep, 24.
Yeah, so still pretty young. You could have Lauren Barnes and Hannah Glass retire in 2 years, and she's still just 26. So I was I was talking to a photographer about this. Um, that it seemed like they had some commitment to her and her development as a young player, and we'll have to wait and hear what they thought of her performances in Crystal Palace. But I would not be surprised by another loan rather than a full transfer out. I also wouldn't be totally surprised by a full transfer out. Um, but I do think they've sort of stacked loans in the past, um, before they, fully transfer players. Like unless the players really want those transfers, like when the Brazilian player who came after Angelina, when she was
Luani.
Luani, thank you. Like she was playing
Never
in
forget the
Spain.
Luani era.
When she was playing in Spain, and they decided that the best thing for her was to stay playing in Spain. You know, so unless a player kind of requests that sort of thing, I think, and if they can find a loan, I think a loan makes the most sense. And I don't think they'd have an issue finding another WSL team to loan her to. Um, so yeah, I don't see her returning to the club right now necessarily, unless the coaches and staff saw something at Crystal Palace or in the Euros that I missed, which is entirely possible. I'm not saying that I watched a ton of her and I'm the expert on how she did at Crystal Palace. Um, but I do think she's probably at the point where they want her to develop a little bit more, before she has a real chance of breaking into a pretty competitive squad right now.
So we'll go loan just because it gives you options.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll go loan. And then so Ryan Brown, I think it also is like we talked, I think you mentioned it previously on the episode, and then when we were paused to figure out roster configuration, I think loan just makes the most sense because I don't imagine you want her to come back and just kind of sit. Because is she playing over? I mean, she could be considering the speed that she's able to have, but also I don't know if it's no guarantee she's going to have the same, you know, speed following that injury, right? And I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if you want her just gassing herself right away. Um, I do think I don't know. What do you? I like alone makes sense to me. So as you mentioned, get consistent minutes, build back after coming off of that injury. Because again, I just don't think it's beneficial to her to come back and just kind of hang out and play, scattered minutes as a sub here and there. I don't know. What do you? I don't know. I would go lone here as well, but I don't know. What do you think?
I might as well, but I'm not entirely certain. I do think she has a shot at some minutes. Um, but you're right, they would be scattered. And to some extent, I'm like, okay, well, maybe coming back from an injury, kind of like having a lighter load minutes wise would be good. And you can still train in a really competitive environment and, learn the system that the team wants you playing in. Um, it's really hard to know without talking to players or staff about, what they feel like is the most beneficial thing. I do, because I do feel like, with Sam Meza, what we saw was her, being sick at the beginning of the season and then struggling to break into the team. And then that loan made a huge difference for her. And obviously a different situation with Ryan Brown, but it's somewhat similar in that she's kind of coming back from really not being able to play, and then will have to break into a really deep portion of the squad,
Yeah.
and may not be able to get any minutes, and they decide that minutes is what she needs. Um, so I think it depends on where she's at health wise, what is best for her, um, on and off the field. I'm kind of, I was a bit surprised she didn't. Well, I guess her injury was around this time last year. Um, but I was a bit surprised we didn't see her return sooner. So
I kept wondering about it.
yeah, I mean, I think if you can find a good loan, and I think an important thing is that wherever she goes on loan, there is good medical staff, um,
Yeah.
so that they can continue to support her in her
She
rehab and
builds
her
back
getting
up
back to full fitness.
because yeah, by no means is her recovery just done now that, you know.
Right. And so
But if I'm making you make a decision,
I'm saying I don't have enough information to make a decision.
okay, I'm
So
loaning
I
her.
refuse to make a decision.
I will loan her. So
She
I
either will go on
imagine,
loan, or you can loan out Julia Lester so that she can return. It's one of those.
hmm, well now this is a different discussion now. Oh, no, I closed the window. No, please.
Keep going.
Because I was like, because sorry, different thing. Because Leicester provides center back depth, does she not?
I think technically, yes.
Barnes, where okay, Barnes can play both. Where to Oh well, it doesn't list it on here, but like so many of these players I see as outside defenders, like with Glass. Shea
Mm-hmm.
has played center back a little bit, right?
Yes.
Curry I see as an outside. Jordan, but we don't need the
So
conversation.
I think Madison Curry can play center back. I may be mistaken.
Okay. I'm just like with you see what I'm saying though with that one. Like if you were to
Mm-hmm.
loan Leicester, I'm like feels like you're lessening the center back depth, which I'm not saying you need to be worried about, but I've just
Mm-hmm.
seen what's happened with the Sounders and how they'll be down to like one backup center back tomorrow. No, Saturday. The shit, I know. So I don't know. We figured out though our decisions. So that was what I wanted to get through this exercise with. So I'm happy with
Okay.
that. I will just because the Sedeno thing is me so curious, I'll probably write about that. I'm like, hey, here's the roster decisions the Rain will have to make coming up pretty soon. Thanks for that.
Yeah, I'll have to figure that one out at some point.
Okay. Yeah, that was going to be the episode besides the sort of the international things that have come up over the last week. Because last week I talked about the what 12 players they're sent at that point because it was this nice list that the Equalizer put out. Don't know who made the graphic about all these players going into the U23 camp because the Rain have five from that group, right?
Yeah, the most of any
But
club.
over the past week, Ainsley McCammon was named to the U.S. under 19 and under 18 camp. I don't understand how that works. They're just combining the groups.
I don't know.
Um, the teams will come together from June 24th, so already happening, to through July 1st for a joint training camp at McCurry Park in Fayetteville, Georgia. All players in the camp are age eligible for the 2026 U20 Women's World Cup. So that's pretty cool to build towards that World Cup potentially. Um, the players from both age groups will be divided into two teams for the camp featuring players from both age groups. Oh, very cool. Um, yeah. I don't know. Ainsley is one that interests me though. We talked about the midfield depth, right? And it feels I mean, she's appeared in 7 matches this year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just feels like maybe she could also benefit maybe from getting some more minutes because she's still super young. Yeah, she's what, 17, I think we mentioned already.
Yeah.
So that and G was called up to the Republic women's national team ahead
Shocking.
of the EAFFE1. It's a lot of letters. Women's football championship matches, uh, which is a competition to determine the strongest football country in East Asia. Oh, very cool. Um, okay, full schedule for July. Jesus Christ. Okay.
I was gonna
July
say,
9th,
if you want to talk
4
about,
a.m.
you missed some internationals. Anna Maria's with Switzerland, Jess Fishlock and Angharad James Turner with
Well,
Wales.
yes, but those were already announced.
Oh, I didn't realize these were the newer announcements. My bad.
No, yeah, these were the new. Yeah, I talked about these all last week.
Okay, well, I didn't listen. I've been sick.
Didn't know the sickness made you not be able to hear anything.
No, it just means that I rewatch things over and over again on TV while I fall asleep.
Yeah, Wednesday, July 9th, 4 a.m. Pacific time, Bella. You're gonna wake up to watch Korea Republic versus China
I
at
will
the
probably
Suwon World
still
Cup
be awake,
Stadium.
but not be able to find a stream and be really frustrated. That's what happened last time.
That sounds about right. July
Yeah.
13th, 4 a.m. Pacific time again versus Japan. July 16th, 3:30 a.m. Pacific time, Korea Republic versus Chinese Taipei. But yeah, the biggest thing with the internationals for this break is obviously the three players in the women's Euros. The really cool thing I saw today was the basketball court.
No, I think it's a futsal
It's
thing.
a mixed use
It's
because
a
there's a
court. It's a
basketball hoop.
yeah. It's a court pitch of some kind.
Yeah, mixed use with just Fishlock mural on it, which is pretty cool
Yes.
to see, which makes sense. I mean, obviously Jess and Angrag James Turner both playing in a major tournament for the first time for the Welsh national team.
Hmm.
Um, with Lily Woodham, who we've just talked about essentially
Hmm.
shipping off. Um, so that'll be cool. Anna Maria Srnogorcevic, of course, will be
Home
playing
Euros for
the
her.
host country of Switzerland.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, this will be I mean, God, I didn't realize the Welsh national team, the journey that they've been on, not having a full-time manager on the women's side until 2010, 11? I don't remember. Um, and
No,
then
I
not
just
really having names. Huh?
I just keep seeing the clip about them playing like international games on a pitch where there was just like a horse uh or no, just a cow just like next to the field for no reason. And then them
I'll
talking
have
about
to
like their
look at that.
dad stealing their jerseys because they would only get like extra large jerseys.
Oh yeah. It's just tough for Wales considering the group that they're in, right? With
Yeah.
England, France, and the Netherlands. Uh
Whether they advance or not, it is a massive accomplishment for them to
oh
be at the
yeah.
Euros and an exciting thing I think for a player like Jess especially to experience considering how long she has been a part of that team and Wales football.
You know what's fascinating to me is knowing that has kind of taken over being the captain there. That's pretty
Mm-hmm.
cool. I mean, for especially for her, right? Having Jess health. I mean, what have we heard even dating back to last year, right? Is keeping Jess healthy for this.
Yeah.
Um and making sure that they're ready to go. So that's cool. Switzerland and AMC will have Finland, Iceland, and Norway. Very cold. Poor Finland's the lowest ranked team in the tournament. That's kind of funny. Yeah, no, that'll be cool. But I mean, the streams won't be hard to find for this, which is nice. July 2nd, Switzerland, Norway, 12 our time, 12 noon, I should say. Disney Plus and Fox. Still weird to me that Disney Plus has sports. Very
I have
bizarre.
to get Disney Plus to watch the Euros. That
You don't have
sucks.
Fox?
I don't know.
Oh, you
I
can
don't
have my Disney Plus login. July
I
5th, Wales, Netherlands, 9 a.m. Pacific time, Disney Plus Fox. July 6th, Switzerland, Iceland, 12 p.m. Pacific time, Disney Plus FS1.
don't.
July 9th, 12 a.m. Pacific time, Disney Plus Fox. Thursday, July 10th, Finland, Switzerland. 12 p.m. Disney Plus, Fox, or FS1. That's to be determined as of now. And then July 13th, 12 p.m. Pacific time, Disney Plus, Fox, or FS1 also to be determined. So, yeah, those are the big ones. But obviously, there's what? Nine, eight. No, I went down. 9, 10, 11, 12 other players in addition to those three. So, what, 15 players in total are on international duty during this window?
I don't know. Numbers are not my strong suit right now.
G, Jordan, Ainsley, five with the U23s, so that's eight right there.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Four with the senior US team.
yep, so that's 12. Yeah, and then G, nope, AMC as Jess. So
And
that's
yes. Yep.
15 players in total. That
Yep.
is Laura's I'm sure Laura's very happy for her
Yes.
players, of
I
course.
can't wait for all of the short-term summer signings to to play in the friendlies.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, who the hell? What is the starting lineup gonna be on July 20th versus the Urawa Red Diamonds?
And when are they going to confirm that there are other friendlies because they are required to play three?
So Portland, we know, is another one. Do we have any idea what the third would be?
No, I have no
Oh,
idea.
was it you or someone? I thought I was talking to someone and they hypothesized that maybe they do like a closed door one against Spokane just because they did that already in preseason, um,
I
just to pay it
don't
off.
know.
So yeah, that that's gonna be fun. July 20th, get that roster. How many new faces am I gonna have to put in the lineup? Oh my God.
It'll be Lou Barnes and all of the new kids.
Baby's on tour. Or baby's at home, I
Ooh.
guess.
Well, eh,
Jesus
can be on
Christ.
tour.
Hey, maybe Sophia Sedeno will have space then.
I mean, it could be a time to evaluate her. I
Hey,
don't
buddy.
totally know how the roster situation works out. Like if you I don't because I know how the WNBA works when players leave for international duty and it's not like a window. But like technically it is a window, but they're like not official league games. Who knows? We'll figure that out later.
We'll figure it out.
Point is, Reign scored
Anything?
goals, and that's great.
Those change games, Bella.
Goals change games.
Anything rain related from the past week or that you haven't been able to talk to since your last appearance on the show that you want to mention before we get out of here?
I don't think so. I've got some new stories coming to Equalizer soon, and that's kind of it. Sorry, but hey, at least I'm not behind a paywall this time. At least the most recent one wasn't.
Oh, I thought this was a funny. I'll talk about it later. Anyway,
Okay.
so yeah, all right. So I guess the next thing we'll have to talk about is internationals, unless we find out what happens to Sophia Sedeno.
Do an emergency breakup podcast. Just what happened to Sophia Sedeno.
Bella got an email back. It's time to read. Oh, goodness. Till we see you next time. Take care of yourselves. Be well. I hope the new camera looks good. You can see the lower part of my chest now, I guess, in my writing. The quality's good, so that's great. Whee! Um, as I'm positioning this on top of Funko Lauren Jackson, which
I'm
is
so
great.
jealous about that.
What about these two?
Uh, I can't totally tell what it is, but probably.
It's Sue.
Oh, who signed that? Was that? Did you get that one from the sale?
No, or
Oh,
my Bethany Balcer shirt.
yeah, that's a
Rip.
great one.
I was just gonna say with Sophia coming back, I was like, yay, Sophia Huerta corners into Bethany Balcer headers. Oh wait, no more. Sophia
No, it could
Huerta's
be
been gone.
Lindy and Dolo headers or Jordan Heidema headers.
Jordan Heidema headers would work.
I kind of feel like maybe Emery's looking for some headers too. Not that I think that's her strong suit, but she does seem to go for it.
My brain jokingly goes, "Gee, so you headers."
No, what's funny is how many like headed goals Jess scores or almost scores, considering how short she is.
Hey,
And
I
I can say
wouldn't.
that as a fellow very short person.
The shorties, The shorties are trying to take over the header game. All right. Probably see you next time. Take care of yourselves. Be well. Find out where Sophia Sedeno is. And do whatever you can to make today a great day.
Hey, Charles.
Hey, Jen.
Hey, where are you going to watch all the away games for Seattle Reign FC this year?
Away games. Well, since Rough and Tumble is the home of Circling Seattle Sports, I was thinking of coming here if that's okay with you.
I think that makes a lot of sense. See y'all here.